What's going on, everybody? It is Dan Krueger from DK Fitness, where we help people achieve their fitness and weight loss goals in a fun and sustainable way through optimized nutrition coaching. And today I'm going to talk to you guys about intermittent fasting. I've been getting a lot of questions from people on what is it, how do I use it, and is it right for me? Is it the secret to losing weight? For people who have struggled for a long time, it might seem like that missing link. So let's get into it today, get to the bottom of it, get rid of the myths, talk about the facts, and see if it's a good choice for you. So what the heck is intermittent fasting? Well, from a high level, it's a style of eating. I wouldn't call intermittent fasting a diet, because the definitions of intermittent fasting are all around the timing and the style of your eating as opposed to the food that you're actually eating. So let's get into that. What is it? It's time-restricted eating. Specifically, you are going through periods of fasting and eating, just like you naturally do. Typically, people stop eating before they go to bed. They sleep for maybe 6 or 8 hours, and they get up and they start eating right away. And a lot of people actually get up in the middle of the night and kind of hit the fridge and snack a little bit. So typically, people in modern society are consuming something that has a metabolic response, whether it be food or a coffee drink with some calories in it, or something throughout the day that provides a metabolic response. And that's something that our bodies didn't evolve with. Back before the agricultural revolution, back thousands of years ago, we would eat very sporadically. And our bodies are very used to that. And these days we live in a society where there is food all over the place all the time. And we're constantly having this influx of calories throughout the day. And that can start to have some negative effects. So what intermittent fasting does is it shrinks the time period where you're taking in things that have a metabolic effect to a specific window of time. Most popular is about 8 hours, from noon until 8. That's your eating window in one scenario. And then everything after 8 and up until noon the next day would be fasting. We can get into the details on what would fit into that as far as what can be consumed when you're fasting and what can't. But for the most part, you're doing all your eating within 8 hours, or whatever the window is that you decide. Some people do 6 hours or 5 hours or 1 hour. There's multiple ways of doing it, but it's time-restricted eating at its most basic. So like I said, the most popular one is usually an 8-hour eating window and a 16-hour fasting window. So you eat starting at noon and you stop by 8 p.m. and you don't consume anything outside of that eating period that has a metabolic response. That means coffees with any kind of creamer. You could do black coffee, and you could do water, and you could do some herbal teas, and that's about it. Anything outside of those items, for the most part, is going to cause some kind of metabolic response. Even if it's just a piece of gum with some artificial sweetener in there, depending on what that sweetener is, that might cause a metabolic response. So for most people that use intermittent fasting with me, my coaching clients who like it, we take a few approaches here. Some people are doing it mainly to make the most out of their caloric budget. If you've got a pretty low caloric budget, because that's what you need to do to get to where you're going as far as your goals, it might just feel better to condense that budget over a smaller period of time. And you might not be as concerned about the metabolic response element. Other people, for example, I've had a few clients in the past who have been type 2 diabetic, are very concerned with the metabolic response concept. Specifically, when you're consuming anything that causes a metabolic response, you're giving your body a signal to produce insulin. So people who are pre-diabetic or are just cognizant of that element are going to want to be much more strict with their intermittent fasting and stick just to black coffee, water, and herbal teas. Because when you take that fasting window and you include and you factor in all of the items that have metabolic responses and you make sure that those aren't included in your 16-hour fast, what you do is you give your body a break from anything that's triggering insulin release. And what that does is it increases insulin sensitivity. Which is fantastic for people who are approaching type 2 diabetes, or maybe they have diabetes in their hereditary background, if they know their parents had it and it's just something they want to be cognizant of. Giving your body a break every day from anything that's going to cause a spike in insulin is fantastic. And even if you're already at the point of being type 2 diabetic, you could still reverse that which is what I've done with some clients using intermittent fasting. So depending on you specifically, maybe you're going to be more hardcore about it and stick directly to the coffee, water, and tea outside of your eating window. Other people, they might get a little creamer in there. They're not too concerned about the insulin element. They just want to make sure that their actual meals all take place within 8 hours. There's other more extreme versions as well. As people progress into this, some people really love it and they want to shrink down to maybe a 6-hour eating window. Maybe eating noon to 6 or something like that. You could shift this around to work with your work schedule too, which is what I like about it. It's very versatile. There's other people who will fast for 2 full days out of every 7-day week. So on those 2 days, they'll limit their caloric intake to maybe 0 if they're able to do that, or anything under 500. People will still consider that a fast technically. So for some people, they like that approach. They like to have big eating days for 5 days, and then 2 of the days out of the week, they fast. Some people actually do a dry fast too, which I don't recommend to my clients who are just looking for general weight loss. The dry fast, which is where you omit from drinking water as well, is something that's a little bit different. And there's some people who that might be of benefit to, but for the most part, everybody I've worked with, I haven't really suggested a dry fast to. I think that's a bit much for most people, considering the fact they're just trying to lose some body fat. At least the people I'm working with, the dry fast doesn't seem to provide any additional benefit for them in that regard. And like I said, one of the main concepts of intermittent fasting is avoiding foods that have a metabolic response. And I also suggest intermittent fasting to people who come to me asking about ketosis, who come to me asking about the keto diet for that reason. A lot of people hear a lot about the keto diet these days because it's kind of a popular diet, and I usually tell people if you want the benefits of a keto diet without drastically reducing your carbohydrate intake, intermittent fasting is another alternative to that, because instead of actually reducing carbohydrates directly, you're reducing your eating window, which reduces the amount of times a day that your insulin is spiked. So you get the insulin benefits of ketogenic diet without actually reducing carbohydrates. So you're never ever going to get into ketosis on intermittent fasting. But that doesn't mean that you can't appreciate some of the best parts about it in a much more versatile way. And unlike the keto diet, which takes you 3 days to actually get into once you make the switch in your food, it takes your body 3 days to actually get into ketosis. Intermittent fasting you can use as your schedule allows. So if there's a day on the weekend where you've got an all-day event, it's full of food and you want to enjoy yourself, that's fantastic. You can use intermittent fasting for 6 days out of the week where it fits into your schedule, and on that 7th day, you can do whatever the heck you want, and then the next day you jump right back into it, and you can just use it on the days where it makes sense. So I've gone through periods where I'll use intermittent fasting for like 5 days a week because I've got this specific routine Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends it's a little bit more, whatever, it's kind of loose, and that's great. So intermittent fasting, it's a fantastic resource for a lot of people to jump in and out of if they've got changes in their schedule from day to day, week to week. It's something that's versatile, can be used to achieve the benefits whenever it works for you. Don't expect a lot out of it if you do it 1 or 2 days a week. That's not going to really make or break anything. The one thing I definitely want to get in there is that it is not going to do the work for you, meaning simply limiting your eating to noon to 8, that concept alone isn't going to make you lose weight. A lot of people think that's the case, and they start intermittent fasting without focusing on what's actually being consumed in those 8 hours. The fundamentals of weight loss are still there. You still need to be in a caloric deficit to lose weight. You do need to be taking in less food, a little bit less food than you need in order to make your body tap into body fat for energy. A lot of people get into intermittent fasting thinking that they can just eat whatever they want as long as they do it within those 8 hours, and that is not the case. Sometimes people are forcing themselves into a caloric deficit unknowingly and thinking they're eating whatever they want, but just because it's only within 8 hours, they tend to just eat less, and it kind of works out for them. But they're kind of the exception. Most people see intermittent fasting as kind of a free-for-all, and that's kind of a bad spot to get into. So make sure that your total caloric intake is in line with your goals. You can reach out to me for assistance on determining if that's the case. But this is a style of eating and it's not a diet specifically. It's just a style of eating. So that's what intermittent fasting is. That's how it works. Those are the benefits it can provide. And for a lot of people I work with, it's a great resource because a lot of people aren't even hungry in the morning anyways. So it fits right into their natural hunger cycles. If you guys have any more questions about intermittent fasting or how you can start to incorporate it into your life, shoot a message to dkrueger at dkrueger@dkruegerfit.com and we could talk about it. Also, if you're interested in our one-on-one coaching where we put together customized programs for you that could use intermittent fasting if you like, shoot a message to me. If you want to see all the other content that we've made, cruise on by dkruegerfit.com. There's a ton of it out there, and I'll see you guys in the next video.